Welcome to another round of the With Just 15 Defeats show. Today we're going to be talking about another heavyweight boxing breakdown. And this breakdown is the recent matchup between two heavyweights, Bryant Jennings and Luis Ortiz. And this happened mid-December. And was quite an interesting fight, and it's worth a watch. Now, if you haven't seen Luis Ortiz, he's a beast of a man. He is an actual beast. He's the sort of guy, if you saw on the street, you'd probably shit yourself. Now, he weighed only slightly more, about 10 pounds more than Jennings, but he just looks so much bigger. He looks older. He is slightly older than Jennings, but I think it's because he's so wide. He's so wide. He's so thick set in every possible way. He's just a bit of a beast. So this fight was for the interim WBA title. Whatever that's worth, it's obviously worth something. It appears that I think Chagiev does have the title. The super titles, I guess, is held by Fury following his win over Klitschko. So, as always with all these titles, it's just a bullshit title that they were going for. Doesn't really mean anything, and Ortiz has competed for this, I think, 3 or 4 occasions. He was stripped of it once before for testing positive for a banned substance, which he refused to accept that he had taken the substance. He pleaded ignorance, and the excuse given was that he eats a lot of horse meat and the substance is found in horse meat. Fair enough, if that's what floats your boat. So let's move on to the actual contest, which, as always, from what I've been looking at, what I've been reading, I think I've seen it slightly different to some others, which doesn't surprise me because of the way that I like to watch my boxing, how I like to assess it. But let's go through it round by round and just have a few comments for each round. Okay, so the first round commenced, and there was a lot of movement right from the get-go from Jennings, but he took a few big punches, and then he got him on the back foot, and there was a flurry of punches from Ortiz. Ortiz was basically trying to end the fight as quickly as possible, but he couldn't put Jennings out of there, and in the end the bell went and Jennings seemed to rush back to his corner like he hadn't even been injured. So it was possibly, I don't know, mind games. Maybe he was hurt, maybe he'd managed to ride that storm and he was ready to go. But as soon as the second round bell went, Jennings was right out of the blocks. He looked bright and breezy. He did not look injured, so maybe he was okay. And straight away he decided that he was going to get close into Ortiz. So then there was a lot of infighting. He managed to land quite a decent uppercut on Ortiz, and that is where he was getting his success. But then Ortiz managed to create a bit of distance, and he started to land from range, and he was looking for good counters, and you could really see the speed of his punches. There's a lot of speed in those punches. They come out of nowhere, usually from quite low, and wallop, they're in. They're good punches. So just to recap, the first round I would have given to Ortiz. The second round I'm giving to Jennings, just because of what he did in the first 2 minutes of that round. So we move into the third round, and Ortiz was keeping the distance initially, And it appeared that he actually got Jennings hurt again for the second time in the fight, when Jennings kind of slightly turned, he ate a shot, and he kind of had to scurry away to try and avoid more damage. But he managed to ride the pressure, which was, to be honest, quite brief. And then Jennings managed to kind of compose himself, and realistically, for more than half of that round, he was putting all the pressure on Ortiz. He was landing a few shots. So it's one of those rounds where you could give it to whoever you want, depending on what you like. But one comment to be made was that the referee made a vocal command to Ortiz for pushing. Obviously, Ortiz had started to get annoyed by this close pressure that Jennings was providing. He was getting so close in, and he was trying to rough him up, and Ortiz wasn't having it, and he was pushing him away. The referee said, no more pushing. But funnily enough, that was the last we heard of it from the referee, despite the fact that as the fight progressed, Ortiz continued to do it. So it was a bit strange why he bothered to actually, why the ref decided to actually make that statement. But anyway, so we move into the fourth round, and again, Jennings was in close. They were both close. Not a great deal happening, to be perfectly honest, in this round. But Jennings seemed to be more active in that round, and for me, he won that round. We move into the fifth round, and again, Jennings was the aggressor. But not really. This was possibly the poorest round. There wasn't really anything coming back from Ortiz in this round. But he wasn't hurt in the slightest. Not hurt in the slightest. But not that Jennings was really landing anything of any note, anything interesting. And then the sixth round, this round was again another relatively boring round. There was a lot of posing, a lot of positioning, a lot of arm movements, a lot of walking around, trying to gain dominance. But not a lot really happened until right at the end, when Ortiz woke up and he kind of went into a bit of beast mode, and he just ran out of time before anything could really happen, to be perfectly honest. And then we move into the seventh round, which was the last round of the contest. And again, Jennings was the aggressor from the get-go, and it was fairly even for a minute or so. They were both throwing shots back and forth, and then it kind of changed when they got in close. They got in close, and Ortiz landed a couple of devastating uppercuts, and Jennings dropped like a sack of you know what. He went down, he face planted. He was down, and you could see he was disappointed. He was disappointed, and he was screaming like as if to say, I can't believe it. And he managed to get up. He seemed relatively okay when he got up. He seemed steady on his feet. The referee asked him how he was, and he was like, yeah, well, come on, let's go. And obviously, like with all good boxers, Ortiz was ready to go in for the kill. He threw a nice little body shot, and then he followed it up with a couple of lefts, and basically he kind of started wobbling about the ring, and the referee kind of jumped in and saved him. And as the referee was saving him, Jennings again screamed in disappointment. You could tell he was so disappointed that he'd been stopped. And I think partly it was to do that he had actually put up a good fight. For me, he'd won a couple of the rounds, and you never know, that had gone the distance. He could have won that on points. He could have won that on points. He didn't win it, and he was stopped. So it's quite an interesting. There's a lot of buzz seems to have circulated around Ortiz, and whether he's going to be a top heavyweight champion. Now he's got this interim strap. Does it mean anything? It probably just means that he's going to be more in line to possibly get one of the other fights. Now, what are his opposition going to think of him? Are they going to be worried about him, or are they going to think this could be good money? This could build up a lot of excitement with the fans, and could be good for my career. Now, I think a lot of the guys are going to think both ways. Now, Ortiz is obviously, he's known as being huge, power punching, a dangerous opponent. He's stopped a number of guys in recent years. But for me, he was relatively slow on his feet. And I think a good boxer could possibly beat him fairly easily. But as we know, in heavyweight boxing, that one devastating punch can finish it. And I believe that Ortiz has that. He has that devastating power that he will be able to finish a number of guys in the division. But maybe a good quality boxer who can keep the distance. There aren't that many of them out there, but someone who can keep the distance could beat him. Wladimir Klitschko in his prime would probably eat him for breakfast. Possibly not the Wladimir Klitschko at the moment, but we'll see. But he's BoxRec are ranking him number 7th in the division at the moment, and we'll have to see how he gets on. Obviously, the full title, the full WBA strap, is going to be contested, I think, in March between Chagiev and Lucas Brown, which is going to be a very interesting fight, and we'll do a preview of that probably in the coming weeks. And probably whoever wins that will go up against this beast, who, I'll just let you know, his nickname is the real King Kong. So that gives you a bit of an insight as to what this guy's like. But we'll see how he gets on. Obviously, there's not a lot booked in for 2016 yet on the heavyweight scene, but there will obviously be a lot of fights coming up. And obviously we've got what's going to happen with a lot of these guys. What's going to happen with Tyson Fury? What's going to happen with Klitschko? What's going to happen with Joshua, Parker, a lot of the Russians? So we're going to find out what's going to happen. We've also got the Wilder. Would Wilder go in with someone like Ortiz? I would say no chance in hell. But anyway, so that's a good fight. If you haven't seen it, check that out. Also, check out the channel. We've got a number of heavyweight breakdowns of recent fights, so go and check those fights out. We've also got some debates on heavyweight boxing that I've put up in the recent weeks, and I'm going to be putting up some more. So check them out, like the page, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll see you shortly. Thanks very much.